Hello, Auburn fans. I'm Miles Barano. I'm here with Brandon Marcello. We're with Auburn 24/7 Sports at auburnundercover.com. We just got out of a press conference with 3 players. We talked to Jarrett Stidham and Daryl Williams and Steven Roberts. So, what did you think about what they had to say?
Well, yeah.
A lot of disappointed faces about the game.
Yeah, I thought the most interesting thing that was said tonight, besides moving forward and Auburn having to do, what they can to kind of move past being ahead 20-0 at LSU and blowing that lead, was Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback, saying that he doesn't have the power or is not allowed by the coaches, or it's even built in their system, to audible out of plays offensively, which is baffling to me. Now, I've always kind of thought that was the case, and I've heard that, especially when Nick Marshall was on campus, that even some of the zone read plays that they ran, the zone read was actually predetermined and called from the sideline instead of allowing Nick Marshall to make the decision on his own, though he did it sometimes. But the fact that Jarrett Stidham, a 5-star quarterback, has come in, he's been here since December, and he's not allowed to audible out of plays is really baffling to me, especially at this point in the season, more than halfway through, 7 games of the season, and Auburn offense was absolutely anemic in the second half, piled up only 64 yards at LSU, very predictable, very conservative play calls. They ran the ball 17 straight times on first down. LSU straight up said that the only adjustment they made on defense was they took one player, usually a safety, and had him attack this one gap that they weren't filling up. And that was enough to stall Auburn's offense. One small thing, one player. And Auburn didn't adjust. And then you take that, and then you also learn tonight that they have taken the power, or he never had the power, out of Jarrett Stidham's hands to audible out of a play if he doesn't like it, or he sees something in the defense that maybe he can attack, or notices that the play's probably not going to work. That's incredible to me. Now, Auburn has built-in fail-safes of its own, so to speak. If they don't see something they like, he'll look back to the sideline and they'll audible, so to speak, from the sideline. But that's something that in college football is so old, to the standpoint of you only do that with freshman quarterbacks and guys who don't know what they're doing to help them out. I would think at this point Jarrett Stidham knows what he's thinking and knows what he's doing. But this is nothing new for Auburn. As I said, they did it with Nick Marshall, they did it with Jeremy Johnson, and there seems like they're doing it again with Jarrett Stidham, and Stidham said as much tonight, and said, in fact, he said, maybe it's something he'll go talk to Chip Lindsey about. But at this point in the season, you don't have an audible system in place. And if you get in a situation like they did at LSU, well, you're just building yourself up to fail again.
Do you think it was something that was taken away from Jarrett? Because I thought he had mentioned earlier in the season that him and Chip Lindsey were working pretty closely on play calling.
I think what maybe he was discussing more at that point was that they were discussing what works for him. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, hey, if you call this play, I've got these options to check out of before the snap. Now, there are built-in plays with the RPOs, run pass option, that after the ball snaps, he can make a quick read whether to hand it off or to throw the football. But the problem with that is that his options even then are still pretty limited, and he's got to make a quick decision. It isn't like he can quickly read a defense and realize, oh, I can audible into a play where that route's actually different or the run play is different. So Auburn's in a situation where if you face a really good defense, or LSU being a mediocre SEC team, if Auburn doesn't make adjustments and is able to do that successfully, whether it's through audibles or just the coaches making adjustments in the second half, you're setting yourself up for failure. And one stat that our columnist Philip Marshall looked up, and it's shocking to me. In Auburn's last 5 losses, they have scored a total of 10 points in the second half in 5 losses. 7 or 6 of those points came against Oklahoma on the final play in the All-State Sugar Bowl. So is incredible to me.
Not a lot going on in that second
Or 7
half.
points or whatever. But, I mean, they're not scoring in the second half against good opponents. Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma, Clemson, and now LSU. And LSU is the worst of that bunch. It's not a good sign. That's what we call a trend. And even going back to the Clemson game in the second half, Auburn, that throughout the whole game, in fact. I mean, Auburn was sacked 11 times. They couldn't do anything on offense. It was the worst offensive performance Gus Malzahn's career. There's a trend going on here, and no matter the amount of talent here at Auburn, it doesn't seem like what they're doing offensively is going to work every game. And I wrote this today for our subscribers on the message board, the body get a message board at auburnundercover.com, is that you can set up players to kind of succeed and lean on their talent to win games, and you can keep calling the same play over and over again, and if you're having success with it, it's usually because the other team just doesn't have the talent. Mm-hmm. But in the SEC, that's not the case. Everybody's either on your level, a little bit below it, or above it. And if you keep doing that over and over again, even the teams that are less talented than you or spirited, in LSU's case, and my belief, and Arden Key being slowed, they can just make one quick adjustment, and they're stopping you cold if they know exactly what's coming before the ball is snapped. So yesterday was just it's the worst collapse I've seen by Auburn. I've only been here 5 years, but it was worse than the 21-3 lead they had against Florida State in the national championship game. It was worse than that, in my opinion, because Auburn's offense just looked dead in the water throughout the entire second half. And at least in that national championship game, Trey Mason took the team on his back and scored the go-ahead touchdown with under 2 minutes left. And then the defense just kind of had some bad luck on the final drive. But anyway, this was much worse. I mean, all three facets for Auburn. Offense, defense, and special teams failed them in the second half. And coaching has a lot to do that. And I tweeted this earlier. Players win games, coaches lose them. And I think the coaches lost Auburn this football game.
Do you think that maybe it had to do more with the coaches not preparing the players to be in the right mindset after that first quarter? Because they were really hitting home, we need to score points early in the game. Do you think there's too much focus on that?
Well, I think that they were well prepared, script-wise, as you said. And then from there, it was like the coaches, and they had a plan, but the plan was, okay, now that we've got this lead, let's run the football a lot, and then even get Cameron Petway more involved. I mean, they went in thinking they're going to give Cameron Petway 10 carries, and it was obvious from the first time he touched the ball again, he's not 100% healthy. Here comes Michael, by the way. He just finished the story.
Breaking news, Auburn just ran the ball again on first down.
But I think that there is something to that. They built a good plan. They got that lead, and then they went into their shell, and then they went, okay, we're going to run carry on, and then when he gets a little bit tired, we're going to put Petway in, and we think he can be successful. Petway is just not himself right now, and Auburn kept going with that, did not adjust, and LSU adjusted, and that's the name of the game. But I do think Auburn came in with a good plan to start the game.
They went go up 20 points.
I mean, the play calls were great. I mean, they were going downfield. Not only that, but they were mixing in some intermediate passes early, even that throw to Sal Cannella on the first or second play of the game. But then they just went away from it, and that's been a thing for Gus Malzahn throughout his career, or at least over these last 3 seasons, in my opinion.
Adjustments are an issue. They just can't adjust.
Yeah.
You got to go away from it, and even if you go in with the plan, Petway gets those 2 carries right away, and you could see
kills a drive
back, and they were backed up. I think at that time when he first carried the ball. Don't go back to him. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't understand why you can't. I mean, was it big linebackers again that Cam Martin didn't get to play? I don't understand having some of those tools in your toolbox and just saying, look, they just don't fit what we want to do in this game. When something's not working, and I think Carrion got worn down a little bit as the game went on. This is the most carries. You go back, he's only carried it in back-to-back games 20 times once in his career.
Right.
This is the second time. And this is 3 games in a row. This is the most carries he's had in any stretch of his career. He's still nursing that hamstring injury, even though if it's a little bit at this point.
He was limping a little bit.
But it just adds up. I mean, 30 with that. I mean, he was on pace at one point for 40 carries.
Yeah.
And they pulled back a little just because how the game went. But man, I just don't understand some of the rotations at running back, some of the things they're doing at receiver. It seems like they have that idea, but but then the opposing team is going to make adjustments and take some things away, and then they just sort of panic and don't know what to do.
Yep.
And how do you guys feel like the absence of Kyle Davis impacted the game?
I think it affected them greatly in the passing game. I know you don't want to put too much importance on someone, but Kyle Davis and Darius Slayton, outside of Will Hastings, what he's been able to do, are their deep threats. They stretch the field, and Auburn was just so heck-bent on running the football and then going deep. Running the football,
There's
going
no
deep.
Intermediate routes.
There
so
was
at that
nothing
point,
like
you
that.
needed Kyle Davis to be
You
able to
gotta
get
have
that
it.
opposite threat, balance the field. Because Will Hastings, you get that mismatch once, they're going to make an adjustment and make sure that doesn't happen again. They're not going to line the safety up against him again, obviously, because that was not great.
Right.
And the other thing that Jared Stidham said today was that Kyle Davis practiced all week. So they went into the if that's true, that they went.
Did he
into
say he practiced
Yeah,
all
he said
week?
practice all week.
I thought, for some reason, I wanted to think he said he didn't practice.
No, he
all
probably thought he said he practiced all week. So that kind of gives you a sense they were game planning it with him in mind. And then at the end of the week, you say we're going to take him out. Things change at the last second, and that's not ideal.
Sal Cannell ends up playing a little bit.
that's not ideal. And Nate Craig was kind of missing in action again.
That's a guy who needs to step up.
They haven't used Marquise McClain, I don't think, at all.
No.
Maybe an extended action like the fourth quarter. Or something,
It's amazing.
So.
And I mean, listen, Auburn had some drop passes. I mean, the biggest sequence of plays was Darius Slayton on third down going downfield on the sideline, and he dropped a pass. It's going to happen though. He also made a heck of a catch over his head. Remember that in the first half to go down the field.
That was Ryan Davis.
Was that Ryan Davis or Darius Slayton?
Ryan Davis had the diving catch. I thought Darius Slayton had the one where Jarrett made that beautiful throw.
That's what I'm saying, but still, it takes a lot of concentration near the sideline.
He had a nice catch last week, too, so they were doing some good things.
So it's going to happen from time to time, but Slayton drops that pass. They go from flipping the field, being in LSU territory, to punting the ball, and on that punt return is when they had the touchdown.
What's strange to me is you got some guys, like I think Darius Slayton could be a guy that runs the middle field. You got guys that all they want to do is run these screen passes and then deep throws, and there's no in between. And
where are the drag routes we saw earlier in the season?
Yeah, and so it seems like once the team gets used to you, once LSU kind of says like, okay, this is how you're going to use Will Hastings, that's all you're going to do with them. They shut it down. It didn't happen again. And so I just think,
Will Hastings, it's like double move or nothing. That's all they're going to do.
Right, and so if they line it correctly and have that deep safety back, don't let him get behind you. He's not going to burn you as much. But Auburn has these other big guys that they're just not taking advantage of.
Yeah.
And this was a test for them, and I think the wide receivers didn't kind of shine. We were kind of looking at this was the biggest getting separation.
Not a lot of separation.
And there wasn't a lot, and so I think this is kind of. They're making strides, but it's just not enough against some of this top competition.
But the play calling also limited them.
Right, that hurt them too, and Kyle Davis being absent. So, but I don't. But like you said, there were timely unfortunate drops and some things, and separation wasn't good in the second half. So they need to get better.
Yeah.
Now we're going to be 7 weeks into the season. They need to be better.
Right.
Are we over half over? That's crazy.
Over half over. Yeah. Season's more than half over now. Incredible.
Iggy. What about Iggy's another guy that they could
use?
He's found a role on kick returns, obviously, and he's their primary kick return. Basically,
but he's a player that kept saying that they would try to get more involved on offense, and that's not happened. And I'll tell you, I mean, listen, Auburn's bye week is after the Arkansas game this week, so maybe that's when they start getting guys more involved. But oh man,
the one thing that I don't get is like you got these younger guys like Devin Barrett. They only put him in there for like 2 plays, and it's like. If you've watched the film, opposing coaches are going to know what they're doing with Devin Barrett because they don't do anything else with Devin Barrett.
Every time he comes down.
And so I don't understand, why would you use him at all if all you're going to use is the same thing? Because these coaches, and they get paid to analyze film hours at a, they've looked and analyzed every single play in Tennessee's. I mean, how you don't know what Devin Barrett's going to do when he's on the field would be just, I just don't understand why they don't mix some things up or go to the other guys that they got. I don't know.
Do we have any sort of update on Trey Matthews and where he's at with that injury?
No, not necessarily.
It was a hamstring. I was on the broadcast. They said it was a hamstring injury, which you want to talk about that story? That's a good story.
Not funny.
No. The injury's not. So we're laughing. Brandon got in trouble.
I didn't get in trouble.
Well, he got a talking to. Was that fair? By Auburn defensive coordinator Kevin Steele for asking him, why does Trey Matthews always get hamstring injuries? And,
not why, but I was like, does that worry you? He has a history of it.
History. And then Kevin Steele did not like the word history and gave Brandon a talking to. And
Said,
so
like,
now,
what hamstring injuries?
Because he had, like, multiple. And then,
At Georgia and here at Auburn,
Yeah,
and then
so-
now it's popped up
and now again, so Brandon, it's humorous because he got yelled at, not that he got injured, but it'll be
Yeah.
something to watch. And when we saw Karen Johnson,
big loss,
and Daniel Thomas and Nick Ruffin, played. Daniel Thomas dropped that interception. Nick Ruffin kind of struggled a little bit.
They both struggled. They really missed Trey Matthews in the second half.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he's a presence on the field just in
Yes.
general, just not just
He's a
playing. He's a guy that I think
wanna
the
talk
secondary
about-
looks up to. Yeah.
you want to talk about a leader that actually pumps guys up and keeps their heads up? Trey Matthews is that guy, and I think him not playing hurt them quite a bit as a defense.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the second half, they've got to get him back, and,
And
it
this
might
would be
not.
an
It might not be till after the.
This
bye
will,
week
but
now.
this is an opportunity. You hope you can beat Arkansas without him, and he gets 2
You would
full
think
weeks.
so.
With
Arkansas's
the bye week.
Arkansas's pretty bad.
Yeah, so
They're not
this could-
Mizzou bad, but they're bad.
You know, you think anybody questionable, they'll try to rest just because you get that extra week with the bye week. And
Yeah,
then get
so you
them
get 2
healthy
weeks to kind of rest.
Because that Texas A&M game, they're coming off another big win now. In 2 weeks, after the bye week is going to be a big one, and they're going to need some guys, I think, healthy for that one.
Absolutely.
I don't think they'll need them as much for Arkansas based on what
They
did they lose 41-9 yesterday or something again?
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean it's Alabama, but still, and they were playing with their backup quarterback, who's apparently like did
A
Steve
giant,
Roberts
some
say,
sort of giant,
Darryl Williams
6'7",
said 6'7".
Well, we didn't check that, so it may
I
could be
haven't checked
wrong.
it either.
I wonder if he's like 6'3" and 210.
Yeah, he's like this tall, and he's just going out there. Hey guys, he has that voice too. No, it'd be they missed Trey Matthews.
Yeah, but his hamstring, and that's what they said on the broadcast, and it's tough.
Is Javaris Davis back to 100%? Because he was making a couple.
He had a really good tackle at the goal line.
Yeah.
Through his shoulder to somebody.
I'll tell you, hey man, he stopped that guy in his tracks.
Yeah, just threw it backwards.
So yeah, he's doing fine. Man, now I'm thinking back on that sequence of plays. Jeff Holland missed that tackle that ended up being a touchdown. Auburn had a chance to stop it dead to rights on 4th and goal. It's almost like the defense is not the air didn't come out of them, but it's just like every time they had a chance to make the play on 3rd down or 4th down, it just seemed like in the big moments they weren't able to do it.
Well, I mean, Auburn had the ball at 20-0. If they scored there, I think it would have been over in the first half. And then everything kind of that 1 70-yard gain
Auburn-
kind of lit the sweep. The sweep lit the fire for LSU.
Auburn needed one drive.
Essentially, absolutely.
One drive. Heck, run the same script you ran to start the game and see what happens.
Put
If
Malik,
you're gonna keep-
put Malik Willis in there, right?
No. But if you're going to keep running the same damn plays,
Who you think-
why not run the plays in
Does
the
anybody
first
ask who's
script?
calling the plays?
No, I don't know. Probably, yeah.
Somebody always asks that.
Gus has a lot of influence on the plays, but Chip's quote-unquote calling them.
People were saying he was seen with the clipboard again.
I didn't see a clipboard. Was
I
there
didn't see a clipboard. He has
had
that piece of
paper.
paper that he folds
Twitter
up.
said
and-
that.
I think he cussed on a sideline this week, too. For the first time.
Ooh, swear in the swear jar.
Yep. No more
But do you
double
think?
bubble
Now
for
wait,
you.
this is an important question. Do you think Aubie's going to be suspended?
Yeah, Aubie
Why did he get suspended?
He
dressed
apparently
up.
dressed up as when they were leading as Detroit's mascot, as like a Trojan.
Trojan.
I guess they're Trojans.
That's great.
And so, yeah, well, they lost the game.
Well, yeah, that's
You could
not
do the
great.
shark thing when you're up 40 whatever
Yeah,
at the
he
end
had
of the game against
corn
Old,
dogs too.
against
Oh,
Ole
he had
Miss.
corn dogs?
He did.
Yeah, Abby had giant corn dogs.
So you could do that stuff like really at the
I
tail
love
end of
Aubie.
the game, but I think Gus is not going to be happy about
bold
that.
to bring all that to an away game too.
Just like ban that Aubie.
To be honest, I could see him saying like, he's not going to travel. He's not traveling to Arkansas.
He's injured.
He's-
we have to ask Gus for an injury update
Or
every
he's
week on
going to,
Aubie.
or he's going to tell privately. I mean, maybe he'll just say, "I don't know what you're talking about Tuesday," but he'll say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. But then he'll take control of what he wants to know what they're going to do because he doesn't want that to happen.
You have to find the funny and the pain. Everybody.
He doesn't find the funny.
I'm talking
He doesn't
about
find
us.
the
He
pain.
doesn't
either.
see the funny.
Gus doesn't have funny or pain.
No, he didn't. You saw him
Interlinking
yesterday.
cells.
Sounds- yeah, that-
You don't need a clipboard if you're calling the same place.
that's true.
Good
But
one.
you don't agree.
They flipped the piece of paper over.
You don't agree with me
Yep,
that Aubie's
yep.
going to be subject to suspension?
No, he's Aubie.
No.
No one tells Aubie what to do.
Yeah, I think they do. I think
No.
Gus is going to tell him to shut that down. I guarantee it.
Well, he has like babysitters, so maybe they'll.
I think they're going to tell him not to do that kind of stuff anymore. He doesn't want those pictures on there.
Yeah, Auburn's a little too like classy for that.
I don't know about that, but I mean, he
We're-
just doesn't
we're
want to give
good
them. He doesn't want
sports.
to give those pictures out, so people, lights fires.
Whatever.
Next, he's going to have a cigar, and then it's going to be all over.
So got questions?
I was prepared to have a picture of a cigar on the field Saturday.
What I said is that they should, after the loss,
Didn't happen.
they should have smoked cigars on the field and put them out on the field as if they're putting out the curse, even though they lost.
That's
Way to try to end it. Because you got to do something like that to kind of shake things up, bring a couple of the guys that are going to be there in 2 years, like some of the stuff like Marlon Davidson or something, even though he might go to draft. But I mean, get a couple of your future leaders, try something like that.
Tommy Tuberville said he would have done it. He said he wished he could have been at the game because he said he would have given Gus Malzahn a cigar, and he said he would have smoked the cigar and then put it out on the field.
Yeah,
that's what Tuberville said.
So you draw that line. He said, "This is it. This is where the streak ends."
But didn't happen. Also, it just doesn't seem like Auburn's got the temperament to do something crazy.
No, not
you
this
know?
team. They're not built for that.
Gotta have fun.
Well, maybe they did bring cigars, and that's what cursed it.
Maybe.
They jinxed themselves.
Maybe. But I doubt it because Gus be like, "That's evil. It's a sin."
Well, one of the players could have snuck on.
That's the thing. I wonder if there's any players that really pay attention to that stuff.
Well, like I said, on the side, this sideline was.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Cemetery. I
We
mean,
were on the sideline. He was paying much more attention
I
to
was
it than
walking
so
down.
I was riding
He
on the
was
sideline.
riding on the sidelines, and we got down there. We were allowed to go with 5 minutes. I think we were on there with 6 minutes left. So it was kind of bad. They still had the lead around 6 minutes, 5 minutes. And then after that field goal that they got the lead, players were just sort of milling about, kind of in just pockets. A lot of guys just sitting by themselves on the bench. Deshaun Davis was trying to get guys in that last drive to get off the bench, get on the sideline to kind of cheer on, stood him on that final drive, and a couple players just ignored him completely. Ian Shannon, the backup punter, was the only one fired up when the defense was trying to get a stop when they're going to get another field goal. He was telling the band to get the cheerleaders to get the fans up in the corner of the end zone because they were driving right there, and he was yelling at them. But he was the only person to do something like that. They talked a lot about this team's leadership, and Stidham's talked a lot about leadership, but he wasn't kind of gathering the offense. The running backs were just kind of spread out. Just kind of surprising that this was the moment they hit in adversity. And it was just sort of
Was that Ian that was yelling Tyler over and over
Yes,
again?
yes.
Okay, yeah, I saw that. I was
he was
standing
trying
right
to get
there.
the attention of the
I thought he
cheers.
was trying to talk to Tyler Stovall. That was
No, he was trying to get the cheer one of the cheer guys to kind of get up and lead
Yeah,
something.
well, how about that? I mean, Ian was good getting after it.
Yeah,
he was
come on, get up.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that was thrown on the bus by Gus a lot in the preseason. Questioned his ability, and this is a guy that stuck with it. And I was impressed by that character-wise. But Stidham's talked about leadership, and Chandler Cox talked about leadership, and they didn't kind of have that moment where you kind of think, look, we need to kind of get. They had the lead for
they had the lead the entire game,
and then they had another chance. That there was 2.5 minutes left, and they and got the ball back. I mean, the game wasn't over when they were down 24-23.
Mm-hmm.
They had timeouts, so I was just surprised just how. I mean, you were there. I mean, I was just surprised just by the lack of emotion and
it was incredible.
intensity because this was their season,
I
basically.
think there's maybe an overall lack of focus.
Maybe. But it's just surprising with the veterans that they said they had and confidence that they had. And I know Trey Williams is hurt and Trey Matthews was hurt, and they were kind of down on it. But I mean, they got to do something there in that moment. You got 3 minutes left in your season, basically.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I know fans are really mad and angry about this. I mean, I got an email from a fan right after the game. All right. So Gus Malzahn said that's not the end of the world 3 times during the press conference. Gus Malzahn's completely disconnected to the pulse of football in this state. Football's life, and for him to say that, it really pissed fans off. So anyway, he says that, right? It's going viral. I get an email from some random fan that's with the subject line "End of World," and it said, "Gus might not have thought it was the end of the world, but it was the end of the world for this little boy. I want you to show this to Gus Malzahn." And it was a picture of this guy's kid standing in the stadium with LSU seatbacks crying.
He looked really sad.
And he looked really sad. So to say it's not the end of the world, yeah, it's not the end of the world. Yeah, technically, we didn't walk out of the locker room and the world was on fire or whatever. I mean, that's happening soon. But, I mean, you're supposed to start beating teams like this on the road, especially a mediocre LSU team
Well,
in
I
your
think-
5th year. And so to say things like that in your 5th year and have no emotion about it,
Yeah, that's the part that I
pisses
think bothers fans
off.
off. Like, look,
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to say, like, look, game's over, season's over, let's just close it up, pack it in. But to show no anger, upset, or not to have that, we should have had better intensity. Like, look, players should have been, getting in, it just to have nothing, to offer
You could have
nothing.
poked Gus with a cattle prod. He would not have said, ow!
But just to be like, it is what
Very
it is.
weird.
Like, look, this is their. When you look in the last 2 years, they've lost every big game they've played, essentially, except the LSU game last year at home. Really, every other big game they've lost. Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, twice, and games that have followed a very similar script, except that Alabama game that was kind of an outlier. But bad losses offensively. You've had games, all winnable games. The Georgia game, both Clemson games. Look. If all of those are going the wrong way, it's got to be there's some common thread or common theme or something. And to not show any sort of disappointment or frustration, I think sort of frustrates fans more than anything because it's like, well, what if you're not going to do anything, you're not going to change anything, then this is going to happen over and over again, right?
Yes.
If you're gonna just keep saying, well, we lost this one, that's a tough one. I mean, you can't. that's not. The fans aren't good. That's not acceptable.
That and his
Seems like
message,
everyone
and his message to the team and the locker room was, hey, this happened to us in 2013 as well.
He says that all the time, but it's not.
He said
This
that
is
in
week
2015 as well, and he said it this year, and it's week 7.
Right.
And you're saying that, and he also said in the press conference they control their own destiny.
And that's not
they
even
don't. LSU's got the tiebreaker.
Because wasn't the
over
last
them.
time that happened was the third week of the season, right? When
Yeah,
that did happen.
third week
Yeah.
of the season, then they had a bye week. It was still September.
And it wasn't a second loss; it was a first loss.
their
right?
first loss.
So it had no similarities except the same team.
I'm baffled by a lot of things. I don't know. I'm sorry. If you're an Auburn fan, I am so sorry you're dealing with this crap.
You just want to show. You just want your
It's-
coaches and players to show you're human, and that's I think
Yeah.
Jared Stidham
Yeah.
has had that same thing tonight, where he's kind of all smiles and like, good, just get over it. It's got to be positive. Just want to be.
But
good.
that's that's a reflection of the coach.
Sure,
That's
but I
why-
think you gotta, you just want to see some fire. I think, especially when you just want urgency, man. That's all.
I'll say this:
frustrating for fans.
if the worst ending ever for Gus Malzahn, besides getting fired, which is increasingly possible, but would be him going back home to Arkansas this week and getting beaten by
A team
his
that's just
hometown team that he played for as a
dead and
walk-on.
buried.
That would end it. I don't think he might not get fired right then and there, but his tenure would be done.
And you risk losing the team at that point.
So that's
too.
the thing.
That
After losing to
Arkansas team is
LSU,
terrible.
you have no room for mistakes now. if
But he
you're
has
Gus
to win
Malzahn.
out to basically avoid any.
Secure himself.
Yeah, secure. Yeah.
I mean, he can win. He can lose another game, or maybe even 2, and be okay. But with so much uncertainty in this building we're facing right now, with Jay Jacobs and what's going to happen with him
Yeah.
and what we think's going to happen to him, if I'm Gus Malzahn, I would be not just looking in the mirror, but trying anything I can to fix what is wrong with me. You know, like
And the way, I mean, you got Georgia and Alabama playing so well. I mean, that's a really tough
teams
proposition
that,
right
I
now.
mean.
He's got to go unbeaten.
You're literally it's just not only are they your 2 rivals, but they literally sandwich you geographically. You're competing for the same recruits every
And
year.
now they're both in the top 4.
They're
right?
both in the
Georgia's
top
3.
4 right now. Georgia is recruiting their butts off. Alabama's Alabama.
Georgia's already got the best
You've lost to them.
top player in the country for
Yeah.
this class, so they've got
You
momentum
got Justin
there too.
Fields.
3 5-star quarterbacks.
And you've lost the last 3 games to both of those programs. I mean, there's a reason why the burner's on the stove right now, and everybody's backing Gus's butt up to the stove. You ever done that before? I don't know why I said that. Why would you back a butt up to a
Backing a
stove?
butt up to a stove. But it's certainly a hot seat.
It's a hot seat. Yeah, he.
And the way you lose at that LSU, I mean, that was not great. That was not a good way to lose that game. Not that there was a good way to lose, but
Brett Lashley's offense at UConn is looking good. They've scored 170 points this year. They scored a total of 178 last year at UConn, so they've almost already met their total from last year halfway through the season. So, they're not winning a lot of games, but they've shown improvement. Brett Lashley doing a good job without Gus Malzahn breathing down his neck. Any other questions?
Questions.
everybody's just mad.
Yeah.
I just been seeing
Look at all
red
those
faces.
mad faces.
Oh, it's been like
Yeah.
that the whole entire time. Like when we first started, it was just like, bleh.
Like, yeah, Miles Brady. That's me.
Miles Barano for athletics director. Can you promise to give us scoops if you're becoming athletics director?
Well, I mean, I'm not supposed to tell you guys anything yet, but it's in the works.
Oh, okay. Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Should be
Look
another,
at those mad faces. It just got worse.
I know that you guys really don't like me for athletic
But now
director.
it's like every Sunday you're kind of like, what's going to happen this week, right?
This
It's gonna
is
be fun.
Kind of.
This has maybe been the craziest fall since I've been here now.
Yeah, now it's
Not just football, but everything.
because it's not done. It's like there's to be continued on every front still, basically.
Yeah, like it's at that point now where I'm in the car driving back from LSU and I'm thinking, something's going to happen. Something's going to happen. Am I going to have Wi-Fi available somewhere at a pit stop here if I have to write something? Bad
Not great.
times. Bad times. Someone's got to step up, show leadership for this program and this department.
Yeah.
And maybe it's got to be President Stephen Lee.
I don't know. He just seems so disconnected.
I know, everybody seems disconnected to everything. It doesn't seem like anybody's connected to reality right now.
No.
I mean, don't you agree?
Well, it's clear that the athletic department and the president's department or sort of wing of things are not, communication-wise, not on the same
No.
sort of wavelength page. They're not strategizing together. I know that you pay people to do those things, but
They pay a lot of
I don't
people
know.
here.
They pay a lot of people to build buildings, but I guess not to handle communications.
Is there any official talk about a new coach?
No, nothing official. And I mean, you guys throw out any name you want right now, and it wouldn't matter. But I'm sure the power brokers and the money guys have ideas of who they would try to push on whoever makes the decision, whether
But
it's
it's
in this
a-
building or the president.
It's a simple
or
equation, right? Like, I mean, if Gus doesn't win certain games, he's done. I mean, there's
Correct.
You know, I mean, that.
No, but they're talking about like any names.
Oh, names-wise, okay. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, I'll just name a few. That I mean, I'm not. This is just off the top of my head. Clay Helton at USC. He's an Auburn guy, and they like to go after Auburn guys. But maybe that won't be the case anymore if Jay Jacobs isn't around to make the hire.
well, that's the
Bobby
other,
Petrino, but I don't think that would happen because
that's the other part of it. If you have a change in AD, then the names change too.
Absolutely.
Because it's like Jay's going to hire somebody different from the other guy, and if whoever you bring in is going to have his own people that he's interested in. So,
Right.
I think that Jacobs' shoe will be the first to drop in the domino.
I agree.
Because you can't. They're not going to let him hire another coach and fire him. There's just no way.
Petrino, Jeff Brom, who is a Petrino guy, and at least you wouldn't have the baggage with him. He's at Purdue right now and doing okay.
I think with all the stuff that's happening, you can't have Petrino.
Man, you get
You got to bring in a clean coach.
I've always said this: if Bobby Petrino coached at a blue blood, top tier school like Auburn, dude would win a national championship at some point.
I just don't see it. With all the stuff that's going on right now, you can't do it.
I mean, I agree, but there are people behind the scenes that would love to have Bobby Petrino, but and they wanted him even back in December 2012, right after the motorcycle incident, and of course that didn't happen.
But there are people who want Chuck Person too, so careful what you wish.
Right, I'm just telling you. I mean, there's certain people that have influence that make not decisions, but they make suggestions, and then whoever's making the hire makes that decision. It'd be interesting if Malzahn tenure ends, who would be on the selection committee, so to speak, to interview candidates. If it would be like the same guys, Bo Jackson, Mack, of course Jay Jacobs was on it then, but he wouldn't be now if he's fired. I don't know, folks. It's a little bit too early to tell. I mean, listen, they could win out, but they're not. They're probably not going to. And like I said, simply put, there's just no room for error. Never count anything out in football. You just never know. But there's no room for error really right now for Gus Malzahn. So Gary Patterson, I don't think would ever leave TCU. Chip Kelly, I'm not sure he would come here because I think he wants to go to a school where he'd be the only program in town, so to speak. And here he'd be sharing the limelight with Alabama. That's why I also think that he wouldn't go to Texas if something ever happened there, or Texas A&M if something were to ever happen there. And there's some talk about UCLA right now, but I don't even know if he'd do that. But I think the only reason why he would go to UCLA is because of his connections to the West Coast, as it is. Yeah, I don't know. And the tendency for programs these days is to go hire the exact opposite type of coach that what you just had. So Auburn might go look for a defensive coach. Maybe you give Kevin Steele an interview.
Maybe. If things don't fall apart now.
True. A lot of unknowns, folks.
All right. Tuesday.
Alrighty. Tuesday. Gus Malzahn.
Should be fun.
Hopefully.
He's contractually obligated to speak Tuesday, so.
There you go. All right, guys. Follow us on social media. Auburn 24/7 Sports. Snapchat's cool. I just posted a bunch of stuff from the press conference today, so make sure you check that out. And we'll see you Tuesday. Bye.
Bye-bye.